so everyone here is aware of Extinction Rebellion in the circle. I feel like when we're doing this circle for on the camera, it's not going to work more than about say 7 or 8 of us. Any more than that, and it's not going to be very focused.
Content over everything.
So we'll form a little bit of a circle, and then if people gather round and want to hear what's going on, that's fine, and they may contribute or heckle, but we actually keep the circle quite tight. And the subject matter is on Extinction Rebellion and what it means to us, why we've got involved, if we've got involved, or why we want to get involved, and that kind of thing. So this is a tool that belongs to me, that's been used in rainbow gatherings. Have we started on filming? We started. Okay. So this is something that's been used at rainbow gatherings, and at a rainbow gathering we gather out in nature, and to reconnect with the natural world we get water from springs, and we sit together in circle and share food together. It's a vegan kitchen, and it's by donation, and it comes from America, the rainbow gatherings. There's no scripture attached to rainbow gatherings, but there's a prophecy, and the prophecy is that I've most often heard, in a time when the animals are dying and the land has been ravaged, come forth the rainbow warriors from all cultures and creeds, from the oppressed and the dispossessed, and through their actions and deeds turn the land green again. So it is about actions and deeds, which for me is very resonant of Extinction Rebellion and the non-violent direct action. And the tool that we use is a talking stick, so that everyone has a voice to speak, free from interruption, and there's not like a competition to get the word. That it's more about listening than actually projecting and speaking. So that's why I'm suggesting that it can be quite powerful here at Speaker's Corner to use, as the Green Movement, this alternative form of communication. So I'm myself an activist. I've been an advocate for a vegan lifestyle. So for me, veganism has a lineage of conscientious objection to war, and it's about non-violence. It is also about what we consume, and for me as an activist, I would like to see Extinction Rebellion. Of course, climate change is an important issue. The extinction of species is an important issue, but I believe that we have to look at the causes of that, and one of the prime causes being the meat and dairy industry, animal agriculture. So I applaud Extinction Rebellion, and I would like to see this consciousness, the Green Movement, spread in this country amongst all the minorities, and that it not just be a white kind of protest, because the people I was seeing on the bridge when we shut down the 5 bridges in London, they were mostly white people, and it's not representative of the population of London, and it should be more representative of that. So there we go, Rose.
Hello, I'm Rose, and I joined Extinction Rebellion last October. It's quite a new movement, I believe, and I joined as a grandmother. I joined because it affects the future of our all the generations, the whole planet, the environment, and also animals as well. And the government says the Paris Climate Agreement say they have 12 years to deal with carbon dioxide, with CO2 emissions. Other scientists outside say, reputable scientists say, far less. And and it's also can be believed that we're in the, or I sort of believe that we're in the middle of an extinction, the sixth extinction in fact, and it needs to be dealt with quickly, immediately, for everybody and the environment and the animals. 18% of the animal agriculture contributes towards climate emissions as well, from the burning of the rainforest and burning down all the forest to feed the animal agriculture. There's a big chunk that needs to be dealt with, and just feel people should become vegans or eat less meat, decrease their meat, have to, not that should do, that we have to, for the planet to survive. And the Arctic's melting, which causes permafrost, and if that releases the methane, it becomes even worse. 35%, I think it is worse than carbon dioxide. Oil companies, big corporates are really the cause since the Industrial Revolution. I think the last, I'm getting a bit much. Well, anyway, that's the reason. And the corporates are the main issue, although we all need to do our own stuff, like using clean energy, investing our money, what money we have into clean energy companies. Otherwise, I think we will all become extinct. And for future generations, but all of us as well, our generation. So I just feel personally it's the most important issue there is, and it takes in all the other animal rights, everything, all the other issues. If we don't have a planet, we've got nothing else. You know, there's nothing to be fighting for. This is the most important issue. So many people have been interested in this. When you speak to people, near enough everybody's taking it. It affects the whole planet. So it affects the whole planet. It's not just here, it's Africa suffering, Asia. Greece had extreme fires, and it's a continual, it's not just a once-off. And the jet stream has staggered, and it's caused a lot of effect on the weather, which is all directly as a result of the carbon dioxide we put into the air. And the ocean, the ocean was also affected, jet stream. So it affects us all, and I feel quite strongly and emotional about it for everybody. And all the ethnics, I do think that a lot of ethnicities should be included. And I know it's taken off. We have our own people involved in Asia, Bangladesh, all over the planet. So in April, hopefully, internationally, it's going to make the governments and the oil corporates do something and act much more.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Tim. I've known about Extinction Rebellion for, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months probably, just before they did the, well, when was the bridge takes out? How long ago was that?
November 17th.
Yeah, so slightly before that. I think, yeah, what Extinction Rebellion are doing is very impressive. Government needs to take action, they need to be aware of what is going on, and they need to inform and educate the public. So yeah, I think what Extinction Rebellion are doing is incredible. But the one thing I don't think they're doing clearly enough is promoting a vegan message. It's all very well saying the government needs to do something, but if we're not individually willing to do something for this planet, then I don't think that nothing else really matters. We all must take responsibility for our own individual actions. There's so many ways we can there's so many ways we make a lasting impact on this planet with our lifestyle and our lifestyle choices and what we vote with our money. And that's down to us. No one's forcing us to buy animal products. No one's forcing us to buy fast fashion. No one's forcing us to buy plastic. We can do something about that. We can change, and we can inspire others to change as well. So I think that's what we should be doing. I think it's that big effort, that I can't say the word. Cumulative, yeah? No, I still didn't pronounce it right. Yeah, that effort. So yeah, it would be great if Extinction Rebellion did promote a clear vegan message a bit more stronger. I'm not telling anyone, I'm not saying we should be forcing people to be vegan, obviously not, that would be ridiculous, but we need to be giving people reasons why they should be, inspiring why they should be, explaining and educating why we need to be, why it's vastly important. Animal agriculture is the leading cause of destruction on this planet. What we eat has such vast contributions to the demise of this planet, and it's the single biggest impact we can make as individuals, so it would be good if that was just talked about a bit more. But keep up the good work. I think what Extinction Rebellion doing is amazing, and it's going to be it's going to play a big role in how we tackle climate change and global warming.
I'm not properly a part of Extinction Rebellion, as this is my first event that I've come to, but I don't quite understand why it isn't more of an issue for more people. I think that climate change is the single most horrifying thing that's going to happen to our planet, and if we don't do anything about it, it will happen, and we are only coming to that realization now. It is an issue that transcends borders, it is an issue that transcends culture, ethnicity, everything, and we need to rebel, and we need to form a movement where we can mobilise on that, grander scale. It's becoming a global movement, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
I came across Extinction Rebellion in July. I've been doing more and more with it since then. The last few months, been working with it full time. It's interesting to see it growing from being like a really going to meetings where there was like a couple of people there to it now being where there's 100 people attending each meeting every week. It's interesting though, because the more I'm in it, the more I'm kind of just kind of thinking that we need to be working all together, and it's kind of now this thing has come along, it's got like a good logo that people are jumping onto. I think this shouldn't be relied upon as like the thing that's going to save us, or something, or like this is the movement that's doing it right at the moment. There's been people who've been campaigning for like decades, doing like amazing work, and I think that we need to try to just look to those groups as well and not dismiss it, because it's kind of not that we do dismiss them at all. Like, I'm doing a lot of work with it because I think it's going in a great direction, but I think we just need to make a bigger effort to work with other groups. Obviously, intersectionality is like a huge issue. It's not something that occurs in a vacuum. Like, it's really difficult to make a movement that is crossing everything and encourages everybody to feel safe, to be working with the same thing, where we're encouraging people to take non-violent direct action. It is illegal. It's very problematic for a lot of people. I think we need to do more work around how we can encourage people to get involved without specifically saying that you have to get arrested. I mean, that isn't really the message now anyway. That's kind of an eye-catching thing that got it started. But yeah, we need to just do more work to be able to make it a safe place for people to get involved. I think having specific messages like being vegan can make it more complicated. I agree totally that this is something that we need to all focus on what we're doing ourselves, and the things that we eat and the things that we buy and everything, and just the way that we live. But having like specific messages like that, I think, can make it tricky to have a mass movement where everybody is encouraged to be a part of it, and you hope that people grow as they become a part of it, and they kind of phase out things from their life just by being around other people who talk about these things. But rather than saying you need to be vegan, even though I kind of agree with that, it's very difficult. I think you have to be very careful how you message these things. It's an interesting thing to be a part of. It just takes a lot of time and energy, and the more people can get involved in organising, then it's great. I don't think you necessarily have to be doing it with Extinction Rebellion. Just if you're concentrating on climate change, it's interesting how many people here are viscerally arguing about religion. That's been going on for time immemorial. But yeah, climate change is something very present now, and if we're not acting on it now and putting all of this energy into that, if we had people outside Parliament shouting them down every day, asking them why they're not doing more, then we would see a lot more success. People coming down here to argue about religion, I think, isn't the priority right now. But that's just my view on it. Also, this is an interesting process here as well. It'd be cool to try and I don't know how we could kind of make it a bigger thing, and I have people with like varying backgrounds and views of why they're here, talking about something like climate change, maybe to just like open up like that, like what do you think about climate change, maybe, and then have a circle with people who are from completely different backgrounds would be cool. Because people who have the same views generally talking about the same things is kind of a problem in itself, you know, like not being able to include more people in the conversations and open it up to various backgrounds, kind of being in that echo chamber is a problem. So, but it's interesting. So maybe do you have some views on climate change? Do you wanna have a speak about climate change? A hug. You want a hug? Yeah, I used to do a hug. We can do a hug. Yeah. Do you want to talk about your views on climate change?
No, I'd rather listen to you creatively.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? We'll go back around here.
Yeah. Is there anyone who's been listening who would like? Because we kind of set that maybe seven people would be like a kind of limit on people. So is there anyone who's been listening in who'd like to speak? Would you like to speak about what we've been speaking about?
I haven't heard enough of what you've said yet. So.
Okay, so what we can do is we'll go round again. Maybe there's a couple of people here who want to be involved. So Fox, we're kind of limiting the circle to maybe 6 or 7 people. But if as people come and maybe want to contribute, then we can step back and we keep the number at 6 or 7, but there's a kind of rotation of faces so that we can keep this going a little bit longer, and hopefully people from a diversity of views can get involved in it. So
I'm just going to say, I'm going to take a step back.
Yeah,
I'm going to go up.
Great.
I'll catch you in a bit.
Thanks very much, Tim. So yeah, just following on from what's been said, for me about as a vegan activist, I like to express again for the people, like veganism for me, it comes from a lineage of a conscientious objection to war, and the idea that as human beings on this planet, we don't have to be competitive, warlike, and dominating over each other, that we can actually be cooperative, and that we can be constructive, and that we don't have to be destructive to our environment. So with regard to the animal agriculture business, I think that Extinction Rebellion is focusing more on climate change, which 90% of scientists agree is caused by humans, and that if we don't change our activities on this planet, then it's going to have dire consequences to us as a species. But also, even if we were to forget climate change, it's also focusing on species extinction. So the fact that 60% of known species have been wiped out in the last 60 years, and that this is a scenario that's accelerating, not decelerating. And so we are dependent on our ecosystem for our own survival. So these are two aspects, but as an animal rights person, it's kind of the way of the heart. It's not so much looking at the wild species and their habitat, and the bigger picture of climate change. It's looking at the other mammals that we have domesticated and that we have imprisoned and that we have separated from their family group. So scientists will agree upon the fact that animals feel suffering just like we do, and also that they have an emotional life, so that they also feel suffering not from physical pain, just physical pain, but from the separation of the mother from the child, of the child from the mother, of the animals being separated from their natural herd. And that animals in this day and age are treated like commodities, and that they are mutilated, that their tails are docked, that they are castrated, that they are dehorned, that they are confined within spaces of very often not seeing the light of day. And this is the way that we are treating the animals, and it's not seen. So in this country, 3 million animals will be slaughtered in the next 24 hours. And this is hardly seen by anybody except people working in the slaughterhouses, who are mostly the poorest of the poor who do not have opportunities, often from minority groups. And that there's mental health issues within and addiction to substance issues within the people who are working in those environments. So for me, it's very important that we do focus on the meat and dairy industry, because, like some say, like the Food and Agriculture Organization, which,
stand back for the Queen's gone!
Which is
Rebel. Start with MBS. MBS, I want you to rebel, all right? I'm allergic to bullshit, BS boy.
So this is the Food and Agriculture Organization, which makes its reports to the United Nations. They put 18% the meat and dairy industry with regard to emissions, greenhouse gases. But there are some experts who put it at 50% of emissions, and that is to do with the fact that we have been cutting down the forests for centuries to make way for animal agriculture. And you have to look back at the history that in this country, people were moved from the countryside by sheep. That sheep were put on the land, and that's when we had the Enclosure Acts, and the British Empire was fueled on the textile industry. And then you had the cowboys, you know, the cowboy films that we were brought up on, or from my generation. They were the front line, armed herdsmen who were moving people off the land, indigenous people off the land. And this has happened all around the world. So, the deforestation has happened over the last centuries. And although the grasslands do take some of the carbon emission, the grass is nowhere near as efficient as even vegetables are of taking in carbon emissions, and definitely not as effective as forest land is in taking carbon emissions. So the meat and dairy industry, some people put at 50% of being responsible for climate change. So for all these reasons, I think it's very important that the Extinction Rebellion, and just as a general population, that we do target animal agriculture. And there's a rebellion that's happening that's unlike any other rebellion that we've known, and it's a rebellion in the domestic space. So people are taking up a vegan diet, and you know, the vegan population has gone from something like 150,000 in 2006 to, some say, approaching 3 million right now. And so that's a domestic rebellion that isn't out in the streets, that isn't carrying out non-violent direct action in the streets, but it's actually happening in the home. And they say that a third of all caterers this Christmas in the domestic environment were catering for a vegan around the Christmas table. And it's that kind of conversation in the domestic environment that is changing the general conversation within society. So I would like to see, like Extinction Rebellion, seeing that as a supportive conversation rather than being a problematic conversation, because the film Cowspiracy is all about environmental agencies that have refused to address the animal agriculture business because it's not been seen as good for business, because it's addressing something that is, you know, has been seen as a taboo. But we do need to address it because we don't have much time left. And you know, the energy issue is one thing, but there's no point in just addressing that, because even if we went to the transport sector, only accounts for 16% of global emissions. So even if we were to address that and swap over to greener energy overnight, still our emissions would be far too many just with the animal agriculture business, and we'd still have you know, the 2 to 3 degrees increase of temperature. So.
As far as the animal agriculture, I agree with Theo. Cannot not. The animals are the extreme animal agriculture. They're kept in cages, a lot of them. They don't see the light of day. They give birth. They live for about, the cows live for about 4 to 6 years. They have to give birth in there. The male calves are taken away and just left to die. They don't have any milk. The milk's taken for the people. It's also proven that calcium's not good for humans. Dairy isn't good for humans. You know, we have a real high rate of heart attacks, strokes, caused in part by dairy.
I got the Midas touch. Let me touch you, touch turns to gold.
And
I've got the Midas touch. Let me touch your body and your soul.
And nobody wants to die. Animals don't want to die either. Nobody wants to die in cruelty. It's another Holocaust. We fought the Holocaust of the last World War. Animals, it's no different. It's a Holocaust. They die and scream. If you go to the slaughterhouses, anti-slaughterhouse, standing outside, you hear the pigs squealing. They're terrified. No one wants to be in pain and no one wants to be died. And as an individual, we do have responsibilities to be vegan. Morally, if we look at it morally, we shouldn't be eating dead flesh. It's not animals, it's not meat, it's dead flesh. That doesn't sound right, and it isn't right. If things don't sound right, they're not right. We're sort of convinced from, I think, after the war, when there was little food, that the eating of animals seem to just sort of take off after that. We're the most unhealthiest generation in the West. Then there have been those in the war who ate little, are one of the healthiest generation. They didn't eat meat, they didn't have a lot of meat to eat, and it's cruel. So basically it's cruel. So Extinction Rebellion, also I still agree, very important about the carbon dioxide, but I'll pass in this on.
What was the question?
I don't know.
Just about Extinction Rebellion, what it represents to you, and
right, okay.
how you got involved, maybe. And
Yeah, okay. So, I work in the environmental sector as a wildlife biologist, as a conservationist, and I've seen firsthand what animal agriculture can do to wild habitats, and not only to the animals that are involved in it, but to the wild animals as well. I've watched the jungles burning in Bolivia, and made a conscious decision to never eat beef again. And I think that the veganism and animal rights have a huge role to play in the society of the future. But I understand why Extinction Rebellion hasn't chosen to take a position on it. And neither on renewable energy. You'll notice that quite carefully as well, is that we don't solutioneer in our messaging. And that's important because it's not up to XR as a movement or the individuals within that movement to decide what the solutions should be for a better world. I know I have my very strong beliefs, and a lot of it will involve veganism, it will involve renewable energy, it will involve a complete change in the socio-economic system that we live in, and in our relations to each other and to wildlife. To me, it'll involve all of those things. But it's not to me to decide what happens to the rest of the world and how government should change. Which is why the Citizens' Assembly, I believe, is democratically the best way of installing a new system that will decide on those changes in a way that accounts for the power differences between people, that hopefully accounts for the power differences between human beings and the rest of the natural world, and that takes into account all the facts and all the science in a fair way, rather than prescribing my own beliefs on the rest of the population. I'm happy to be governed and have those decisions made by a representative sample of our society, which I hope would be told the truth, the full truth about
the impacts of the animal agriculture industry, of the fossil fuel industry, of all of these different things that are contributing to our demise right now. And I would hope that they can make those informed decisions, which I believe would most likely involve a massive reduction in the amount of meat that we consume in our society. Massive reduction, if not complete dismantlement of the fossil fuel industry, and potentially the mass livestock industry as well, both of which at their current rates are completely unsustainable. But there are so many things in our society that are unsustainable right now. Our ridiculous production of plastic, ridiculous levels of overfishing in the seas. So many of these things need to be addressed, but it's not up to me to make that decision. I'm not dictator of the world, as it were, and I cannot tell everybody to go vegan, and I cannot tell everybody to do this, nor even ask other people in the movement to go vegan, much as, though I'm sure you know, most of the snacks and the food that we bring to our meetings, etc., are vegan or freegan. To me, XR has to be about something broader, and installing the system that will change the system. And that system, I'm sure, I really hope, will make the right decisions on veganism and on the mass livestock industry and on the fossil fuel industry, all of those things. But it needs to be an entirely new system, because the one that we are living under right now will not do any of those things. You know, the capitalist industries that we live under, they don't care about the lives of those animals. They don't care about our future. They care about profits tomorrow, this year, maybe 5 years' time at most. They don't care about our children. They don't care about their lives. They don't care about the lives of the people in the 47 poorest countries in the world right now that are dying. You know, 99% of climate-related deaths, 315,000 a year, happening in the 47 least developed countries. And that's obvious proof that to this socioeconomic system, some lives matter more than others. And that concept, whether you're talking about human life or animal life, is broken. So fundamentally broken that we have to rebel against it. We have to find a new way of living, a new mindset as human beings, but also as a system more than individually, or when we work together. And that's what I hope Extinction Rebellion will bring this April. So that's why I'll be on the streets this April 15th, rebelling for life. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to address that. For me, involved in rainbow culture, we only have 2 or 3 things. So one is going back to nature, a respect for nature, getting water from the springs. The other thing is the use of this, so where every person has the chance for a voice and can express themselves. And like I say, the rainbow gatherings, it's not a vegan, you don't have to be vegan to go to a rainbow gathering. It's a vegan kitchen. What people do in their own private spaces is their own concern. But everyone is welcome. I'm also involved in a movement called Direct Action Everywhere, recently been involved in it. And they also have this idea of radical inclusivity. So everyone can get involved whether they have a vegan diet or not. And for me, that's very rainbow. And you know, I think that this concept of holacracy, of a horizontal form of governance where communities are empowered, that's where I see the change, where we don't actually have to change too much. From my perspective, you still need a centre. For example, in Britain, you still need a centre, but it shouldn't be a centre of power. It should be a centre of orientation. So you can still have the same building, you're going to have the Houses of Parliament, but the MPs should not be paid. There should be a volunteer job, and that they should have their transport costs and their food paid for, but it shouldn't be a long-term job. If they're coming to represent their communities, then all they need to do is have a grasp of what the consensus within the community is, and then they come to represent that, and then they go back to the communities to say, oh well, there's this or that resource here or elsewhere, and they've given their message, and then they've done their job, and then someone else takes that role next time. And all they have to do is demonstrate that they've understood the concerns of the community to be that messenger. So that's like something of what, just responding to you there, Fox. But I really feel that this tool is superior to what Extinction Rebellion is using and what Occupy used with the General Assembly, where you have a facilitator and you have this kind of, this thing where you have hand movements like speed it up, or yes, I agree with you, or I've got a proposal or a direct point, and it's the facilitator's burden to try and orchestrate that. For me, unless you're a very confident public speaker, it's very difficult to express yourself in that form. With the talking stick, you have all the time to speak, and there's a recognition that that you're not going to be interrupted. And then people who are more introverted, not so confident, have the opportunity to express themselves. And what we have usually attached to the talking stick is a feather, so that when you have the words, you can ask a question, and people restrict themselves to responding to that particular question. This form doesn't work very well above maybe, say, 20, 25 people. But that's fine, because you can have it as a drop-in, and it's got to be remembered that it's an orientation space. It's not particularly a decision-making body, because decisions should be made in the communities or should be made in the areas of speciality, in technical specialities. And so in an orientation space, people can come in and go out of that space, and those circles can go on all day. So 200 people could easily go through a circle of 25 seats within a day. And then people can really see faces, really get that emotional feedback. And you can also have a parallel room, so that you have a formal space of expression in the circle, but you have a less formal, informal space where people communicate in different forms. So that's just a technical point on internal communication within Extinction Rebellion, because I do feel that we need to communicate differently. If we want a new paradigm, then our internal structure, has got to reflect that. So, yeah, I'm pretty well finished. I don't know if anyone else has got anything else to say. Okay, well, thank you, Content Over Everything, for recording, and yeah, we're going to carry on here in the crowd and carry on speaking with people. So, yes.
Content over everything. From your melody. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Ethnic majority Sinhalese Buddhist. So that created a lot of resentment, which eventually culminated in the massacre of 1,000 Tamil tigers. Now, in the process of killing those 1,000 Tamil tigers, the Sri Lankan state, armed and trained by the British government, also massacred about 40,000 Tamil civilians as well. Now, I would see that as an ethnic cleansing. It was more than just a massacre, it was an ethnic cleansing. So, now what happened after that? You have to